Hey guys, Robbie K here, coming at you with the first movie review of the week. Tonight we start with an epic conclusion with a movie that has had fantastic advertising and 2 movie sequels along with a television series to really bring the book it's based on to life. Tonight we are reviewing none other than How to Train Your Dragon 3. So welcome to Robbie's Movie Reviews. Let's break it down on how we do this real quick. I am Robbie, and I do my best to share opinions and kind of generate discussion about the movies. What is that in store for you? Well, it's usually a quick summary of the trailer without any spoilers. Throw in the fact that you've then got my quick and dirty review, and then we're going to do a kind of overall review with a little more detail to kind of give you the likes and dislikes and generate discussion for why I gave it the grade. Now this time we're going to try a letter grade. Maybe that will kind of bring people a little better, a little more leeway in terms of it. So let's give it a shot. So again, How to Train Your Dragon 3. The trailers, and for those who haven't seen the series, How to Train Your Dragon is DreamWorks animation that is all about, of course, training dragons. A beautiful world that was described in a book brought to life with grandstand animation has led to 2 films and a television series that are very beloved by both old and young alike. The premise of this one is that once again the dragons are sort of getting the new equilibrium as Hiccup and his group from the previous films seek to continue to bring and unite humans and dragons together in hopes of bringing peace to the world. Yet another nefarious villain stays out, essentially, for another nefarious villain is out there ready to, of course, defy that peace and do a little bit of his own works in his personal vengeance / hunt for the kill of the ultimate prey. But that's about all I can tell you, because there's a lot in this film. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, even though there's a lot on the internet that can do it for you. Nevertheless, let's get started in the review. Overall, How to Train Your Dragon 3 does not suffer what many sequels do. Yes, we can admit that it's probably not as good as the first one and how the adventure was began. But this movie does what a sequel is supposed to do. Expand upon the world, the characters, and bring with it a sense of another journey that's actually going somewhere instead of being stuck in the same middle ground. It accomplishes this goal beautifully, bringing once again charismatic animation, jokes that are famous for the series, fantastic voice work to bring said characters to life with an engaging story that is both fun for kids and the young at heart, adventurous in the sense of trying to live childhood dreams, and yet surprisingly deeply emotional so that it's not necessarily the shallow works that we sometimes see with it. Nevertheless, had an absolute fun time with the film, and it is definitely worth the theater experience. Now, as I said, there are, of course, no perfect movies, and this one, while very close in regards to some of the stuff, still has a few things that I'll go into more details about, but not feeling that the villain or the antagonist was quite as engaging / daring. Cool concept, definitely, but a little more work needed for him. And probably that same sort of adventurous flight and action component that I fell in love with the first, and a little bit of the second, while still maintaining its roots. Still, outside of that, not much more I have to say, but there's more details to come with it. In terms of it, I totally recommend going to see it. And in regards to the scores, well, it's definitely an A in terms of its genre class. I will agree with many fellow reviewers that it is an A, with it being maybe a B+ at the lowest score. If you really want number scores, I myself would give it a 9 in its genre and an 8.5 in terms of its movie overall. I had a lot of fun with this film. I felt it did very good with what it needed to do, and I think it was a solid installment into the film. That's it. If this is where I leave you, please, of course, comment and engage in anything that's, fun about talking with the movies. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like, and about the movie. With the reviews, if there's something I can improve upon, more than happy to take constructive criticism and do my best with it. Nevertheless, if this is where it is, thank you again. More to come in terms of movie reviews with 1 or 2 potentially tomorrow. But if you're sticking around, here comes the likes and dislikes. In regards to the likes, I've kind of already hit on it, but here's a few details. We start with the voice acting. Now, voice acting is something that sometimes isn't the biggest thing to people, but you gotta find a way to bring the characters to life. And the group here, including the newcomers who have replaced some of the older voices, have managed to pick up the pieces and go with it. Character mentality and their mannerisms are all captured beautifully by the voice work, with, of course, the leader, Jay, really just bringing that same quirky awkwardism that's somehow wise yet naive at the same time. Astrid's strong and kind of sensible no-nonsenseness is a great counterbalance, and even the villain had the voice that matched the character beautifully. It just, I'm getting ahead of myself. The acting does the job of bringing the emotion to the scene, and and helping make the characters a little more realistic and relatable. So, kudos to them there. Now, what else do we have? Well, the animation still comes into play here. I understand that Disney and many studios are the kings of juggernauts, and you know that in a big budget film like this, chances are animation is going to be solid. And again, they've pushed the envelope and continued to make it fluider, more depth, grander design, things like that. It works very well. The animation, especially when the camera work and the flying scenes come in, and have the ability to bring that kind of emotion of the scene out and really be charismatic of it, including the new angles that they took with a little more of the romance aspect that Toothless and the Light Fury have, which, again, you've seen in the trailers. If you haven't seen the trailers, well, again, I'm not really ruining anything that isn't already in the trailer-free game. Now, in addition to that, though, you still have the same high-flying work that we were in love with in the original movies, and that is something to totally get on board with, is that it's still sticking to its roots, but still trying something new. I'm gonna, again, get ahead of myself a little bit, but let's keep going with the fact that the Night Fury legacy just continues to be awesome in regards to feeling like you're flying and training a dragon. Now, again, what else do we essentially have with this is it's funny. It's not trying too hard to be funny most of the time. How to Train Your Dragon finds that balance of good, clever writing and slapstick to please the younger audiences, but still not annoy the parents and the older brothers and siblings who are going. That's the thing that I like about it, is the balance and well-timed comedy to really fit into it instead of forced upon us. Is it perfect? No, again, not. But at the same time, I still enjoy that they kept the same kind of energy into it. And again, in regards to an actual story, this is something that I'm very impressed with, is the fact of, I love how this movie expands upon a sequel. I have said that before, but there's been a few YouTube videos I saw who describe the difference between a perfect movie and a perfect sequel. And I'm not going to necessarily call this a perfect sequel, but it is a really good one in the fact that the sequel just absolutely rocks in terms of expanding upon it, continuing where it left off, helping bridge the story, yet still somehow bringing you back to the original fun adventure of it. And if you haven't seen the series religiously, it does a good job of helping with that too. Now, nevertheless, that was just something I loved, and I felt that the emotion behind this, especially the music that goes alongside it, it hits you hard. Another movie that somehow captures whimsy, but still manages to put grown-up emotions into it. That is just a perfection of helping with the hiccup generation's journey. That came out wrong, but nevertheless, it's awesome emotion that again gives it and expands upon a variety of audience. This is how animation movies usually are popular, because they've learned to cater to a number of audience members. So bravo to that. And again, I got to give it props that the runtime is actually pretty good. They could have taken a lot longer, but an hour and 40 minutes isn't too shabby. Now, in regards to where the dislikes are, or the areas improvements, again, this is just stuff that wasn't as impressive to me and may not bother you as much as it did. But here we go with it. In terms of How to Train Your Dragon, the first thing is let's talk about the villain. It's not that he was a poor villain. It's not that he was the worst villain. It's not really any component of that. It's just compared to some of the other antagonists from the previous movies. And again, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin anything, so I'm not going to. But this antagonist just felt a little too tired / tread through. I felt that there was more emotion needed, that despite all the talk, there could have been a couple more components added into the film to help kind of suspense and spice it up. Now, of course, nothing in terms of that would give kids nightmares. I understand this is a kids' film, is what the intended audience is for, and I respect that. But just like in the first two, I felt that there were some other components that they could have gone for to help expand and add that suspense to it, like I had in the first two films. And I guess this brings up that, ironically, you're going to hear me this, I kind of wanted the movie to be longer in order to add those components into it. So it's a minor one because, again, I give them props for the good pace, but I would have liked a little more suspense into this to really kind of get all the components that I think they were shooting for here. In addition to that, I have to say that the action, suspense, and perhaps just the flight itself, as beautiful as they did it, perhaps I was looking for a little more. Again, with the climax being emotionally satisfying, but at the same time still requiring a little more of that adventurous spirit and excitement that I remember the first two having. Maybe I'm misremembering it on that part, but hey, that's the kind of component I really liked. And of course, I would have liked to see a few more new dragons come out into this to bring out some design instead of some of the carbon copy. Again, I still think that they design and draw and animate 1,000 times better than I could ever, if not 1,000,000. But it would have been nice to see a few more new dragons in this installment to help expand upon that component. Of course, more merchandising, and maybe break out of the familiar mold that they've been taking with this, just with a little bit of uniqueness, like when we were amazed by the drawings of Hiccup. Would have liked to see a few of those come out. But hey, that's a minor dislike at most, because again, the rest of the movie easily offsets most of these for me. Again, I love this movie a lot for being a third sequel, and I think it accomplished a lot of what it was going for me. Fun, engaging, comedic, still appropriate to kids, but adults should be able to grapple onto it. This is the example of a movie on many fronts worth hitting the theater for. I implore people to please go and check this one out, because I enjoyed it immensely, and I hope you guys will enjoy it as much. But as always, this is Robbie just reviewing and sharing his opinion. And if you have different likes and aspects, or maybe something I'm overlooking and helps me with my reviews, please contribute, and I'll be happy to take that into account and do my best with the film reviews. But until then, I've got more coming this week. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and please help me make these better. Have a wonderful night, and thank you very much.